here is your League One and League Two offering 5 games across the weekend. All right, guys, give me a minute. Let people join in. Thank you for tuning in. Just give me a minute. Let me set up and get some people to join in. Now. Oh, come on. Not now. Don't install it. All right. Give us a second. Like this. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Today I'm going to be talking about the Gambia Supreme Court, the legal system in the Gambia. I've spoken about it before. Today I'm going to talk about it again for obvious reasons. And I think we all know what's going on in Gambia. It's not a surprise to me. It's not a surprise to anybody who has been following me for the last 7 years. So just give me a minute. Let me sort something out. Let people join in. Thank you very much for tuning in again. Thank you for tuning in. So let's do this. So there's always some drama going on my laptops. Okay, this phone is refusing to work, so I'll use the other one to go on TikTok. So you guys give me a second. So the news is that the Gambia Supreme Court, as always, has frustrated a legal process on a public interest case that should have benefited the whole nation. The Gambia Supreme Court, unfortunately, decided that one of the cases that should have been heard will not be heard and gave excuses as to why that case will not be tried. All right. So you guys give me a minute. People are joining in. Thank you very much. Let me set up my TikTok as well. I'm live on TikTok same time. I wanted to go live on Facebook simultaneously. But this phone is not charging properly. And if I go live on Facebook, it's going to cut off. So that's the only issue I have. But if you guys give me a minute, let me upload this. And I can go live on TikTok so that folks can also listen there. TikTok community is very important. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today's live program is about the Supreme Court of the Gambia. And before I go further, as always, I introduce myself and let people know what my political disposition is, what my political leanings are, so that nobody will be in any doubt as to what sort of politics I'm involved in. My politics is pure and simple. All right, it's pure and simple. I don't have, uh, although I support a liberal democracy, a social democratic political party called the Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction. I am all for honesty. Who's knocking? What do you want? I'm live. What do you want? What can I do for you? Come and get your phone. No problems. As long as you can close the door properly. No noise, yeah? Yeah. Please. Sorry. My kids, man. Just when I was starting, just when I'm going live. So everybody share the TikTok, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to YouTube, follow me on YouTube. My politics, I support one political party. But in all of my politics, nobody in the Republic of the Gambia today knows me in terms of politics of deception or politics of lies. I don't get engaged in politics of that nature. I also do not get engaged in politics of personal attacks, invading people's privacy, caricaturing people unfairly. That's not my type of politics. Everybody in the Gambia today knows how Lamin Tamba plays his politics. I don't get involved in any of that nonsense, all right? I am in politics purely to spew the truth, to absolutely spit out the truth, no matter who likes that truth or hates that truth. And as I said before fondly, I'm not in politics looking for love, all right? I joined politics to make a difference, mainly on the side of education. I didn't join politics so I can get a job. I didn't join politics so I can get some illicit wealth. I didn't join politics so I can become famous or popular or have a lot of following. All genuine politicians in the Gambia or followers of politics today know that my politics has got nothing to do with personal interest, all right? So therefore, people have joined into the live program now, and we can commence the program. Let me record it on, sorry, what's going on? So I want to record it for the WhatsApp network. I've got WhatsApp network called the Voice of Lamin Tamba, which is the name of this channel as well. And people want to hear my audios because in the Gambia, internet is not very cheap. Internet is not very stable. So people want it recorded on voice memo so I can share it later so people can hear it. It can filter down to the local folk. Yeah. So if you guys give me a minute, let me set the voice memo rolling. Apologies. Just need to record this. I look after everyone, right? Everyone. So unfortunately, it's become part of my life. Oh, come on. Oh, man. So of all the places, somebody came near the door to play music. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that interruption. So I'm live, up and running now. Okay, so today is Friday, the 13th of December, 2024. And the occasion of today's TikTok and YouTube Live, the topic for today's TikTok and YouTube Live is the Supreme Court of the Gambia. All right. So the Supreme Court of the Gambia ruled a few days ago that political parties in the Gambia, renowned political parties in the Gambia, that's the National People's Party, the Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction, GANU, and other political parties that were in the coalition government of 2021. That is, political parties who decided to go into coalition with the government of Adama Barrow in the 2021 presidential election. So I guess part of the agreement is that if Adama Barrow won the election in 2021, which he did win in the end, that he would reward these political parties that joined him in 2021 to help him win, because Adama Barrow was struggling. He was failing completely by 2021. He came to power in January 2017. But by 2020, the average Gambian had pretty much given up on Adama Barrow. Nobody wanted to support him. His support base was so small. In fact, we can go further and state that Adama Barrow was not actually popular because he won a minority vote in 2016 when the elections took place. And that was, he won by 43% of the vote, which meant that 57% of the nation didn't vote for him. So he started on the back foot to start with. To be fair to him, he started on the back foot. And even that election in 2016 was believed to have been rigged. Again, in 2016, December and January, the Supreme Court of the Gambia, which will be the center of this conversation today, the Supreme Court of the Gambia, was at the center of the storm in December 2016, January 2017. But the Supreme Court failed to convene to hear the election petition, which was submitted by the then President of the Republic of the Gambia, His Excellency, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yaya AJJ Jammeh, the former President of the Republic of the Gambia, the party leader of the APRC, and the current party leader of the APRC. President Jammeh is still the chairman and flag bearer of the APRC. So a few days ago, the same Supreme Court, as it did in 2021 presidential election, we believe, strongly believe, and there's open evidence, public evidence, that the elections of December 2021 were rigged. The elections were not free, they were not fair, there was open vote buying, there was open coercion, there was open manipulation of the public vote in 2021. We believe that. That's why we challenged the election of December 2021. Now, in that election of December 2021, Adama Barrow, being a weak president, being a totally failed president with nothing to show after being in power for 5 years, knew the only way out for him would be to go and buy political parties and to go and buy the voters. That's why the election of 2021, the rigging was conspicuous. It was open. Everybody saw what was going on. The votes were being bought. Voters were being enticed and given presents and cash and several incentives, all with the motivation of getting their votes or buying their votes. And even the ministers of Adama Barrow's government were threatening that Senegalese citizens will come to the Gambia to look for documentary documents to support their registration to vote for Adama Barrow in 2021. They spoke about that openly at public rallies, and rumor has it that they transported voters from Senegal. It can happen sometimes because some Gambian citizens live in Senegal. All right. So Gambian citizens can travel from Senegal to the Gambia to come and vote. The same thing happens in Gambia. Senegalese can travel back to Senegal and vote during Senegalese elections because Gambia and Senegal are exactly the same, apart from the lines that were drawn between us by the imperialists. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. It's not the first time that Gambians have traveled from Senegal to come and vote in the Gambia. Even I that lives in the United Kingdom. I live in the United Kingdom. I traveled in December 2021 to go and vote for Honorable Mama Kande, the leader of the political party, GDC political party, that went into alliance with the other half of the APRC party, because APRC party split into two in 2021. One part of APRC, which is the small part of APRC, went to the NPP. The larger part of APRC stayed with President Jammeh, stayed true to their roots. They didn't want to go to NPP because they saw the failure, the difficulty, the strife, the struggle that Adama Barrow has brought to the Gambian population. So the stronger part of the APRC refused to support Adama Barrow, because supporting Adama Barrow was tantamount to non-patriotism, unpatriotism, whatever you call it. Because by 2021, everybody knew Adama Barrow didn't have the ability to administer the Republic of the Gambia. Everybody knew the guy was empty. Everybody knew he had no experience, no education, no pedigree whatsoever. Even the people who joined him in 2021, they were his open critics who knew crystal clear that the gentleman was not ready for prime time. Adama Barrow probably didn't complete his high school education, which is not a mark of stupidity or lack of competence. No, there are some people who never went to school, who completed high school or A levels, dropped out of school, who then became business brains. They've gone on to be successful administrators of institutions. This is not like self-employment, where it's a one-man show running a one-man business, as Adama Barrow was doing. Property rentals is what he was doing before he became president of the Gambia. He didn't run a company. He called it a company, but it's a one-man company. It's like me running my own consultancy, which I did for about 10 years. All right. So therefore, the guy didn't have any nous. He didn't have any experience in terms of running institutions, looking after large groups of people. Didn't even run a unit. All right. Yes, Wolfie, my man, thank you very much for tuning in. I remember you very well, my fellow talented artist. Okay, but anyway, so thank you, Wolfie, for following me on TikTok, and everyone else. Share this video, follow my TikTok profile. I'm in this game, activism for the truth and nothing but the truth. I have my own political leanings, but I never lie about anything in politics. I don't do personal attacks. So anything I tell you here is absolutely solid information. Truth, nothing but the truth. All right. So therefore, Adama Barrow, knowing fully well that he was weak, he had no support. The support he had in December 2016 and January 2017 quickly eroded when people found out they actually have put an empty barrel in the State House of the Gambia. The State House of the Gambia is the presidential palace where the president of the Gambia lives and works. It's called State House. For those of you who are not Gambians, I'm setting the stage for what's to come. That's why I'm reiterating information that might be basic to the Gambian person, but a large following of me is not from Gambia. Most of my followers are not from the Gambia. So therefore, what I'm saying is, Adama Barrow knew he wasn't popular by 2021, but he had the support of other political parties, about 11, if I can remember, or more, went in to support him so that he can defend his term, win the 2021 election. In return, he'll do them favors. So what favors did Adama Barrow do when he won the election in December 2021? Well, we challenged the election results, which will become important in the decision of the Supreme Court. All right. Yes, my beautiful sister, Fatima So, thank you for tuning in on YouTube. So this video, this live program is simultaneously on YouTube, on TikTok. It was going to go on Facebook Live as well, but the third device didn't have enough battery, so I didn't want the drama. So therefore, Adama Barrow won in December 2021, won in inverted commas, okay? I don't think he won. The majority didn't think he won. That's why we challenged the election results in 2021. But the Supreme Court of the Gambia decided, in their own wisdom, going against precedents that's been set by the Gambian law courts. The Supreme Court of the Gambia decided that because the election petition was not submitted correctly, in my view, that submission was correct. And I'll come to that in a minute. The Supreme Court of the Gambia, because the election petition was submitted to them, but wasn't submitted correctly according to the Supreme Court, and I think they were wrong, I believe the submission was done correctly. But then let's take what the Supreme Court said, just for the sake of this argument. The Supreme Court said there are 3 ways of submitting election petitions in the Gambia. 3 ways of submitting them. Submissions have to go to the parties or the party. Another submission has to go to the court. And another submission has to go to the individual that's been sued to court. 2 out of 3 submission criteria were met. according to the Supreme Court. A third criteria, one of the three. So the criteria is three means of submitting electoral petitions to parties involved. One of them, according to Supreme Court, was not met. So two were met, one wasn't. The Supreme Court decided that because the three submission criteria weren't met, the case will not proceed to trial. And there's no case in the world, in any nation, that is more important, that is of a bigger public interest than a presidential election petition, because the president is where everything public administration wise, that's where everything starts. So there'll be nothing bigger in terms of public interest than a presidential election challenge. The Supreme Court of the Gambia said the reason why they said the third submission process was not correct is that instead of serving the notice of hearing or the notice of or serving summonses or petition on the president, and you cannot just go to the president and serve him a notice. It doesn't happen. So the opposition parties can only serve the president via his chief of protocol, or if the president has elected a legal representative, you can only serve those documents on the legal representatives, because the legal representative has signed up to say that I have been instructed by the president or the NPP government or whoever was party to the case, to the petition. You can serve it on the chief of protocol and it will be deemed good service according to the Supreme Court of the Gambia. And the chief of protocol is the person that links the petitioner to the president. In my view, as far as UK practice directions and civil procedure rules are concerned, if you were going to serve me documents and I've got a lawyer, serving my lawyer is equivalent to serving the documents on me. If the lawyer then doesn't transmit that information to me, that means the lawyer hasn't done their job properly. That doesn't mean the court or the other party hasn't done their job properly. So if serving a petition on the chief of protocol is deemed good service on the president, what about the legal representatives who's been instructed by the president to represent them in this particular legal case? Gambia is a former British colony. Our common law, civil procedure rules, court proceedings, attire, appearance, every single thing is about 80–90% common law practice as it is in the UK. Our justice system pretty much mimics, it mirrors the UK justice system with a little bit of changes here and there for cultural reasons and geographical reasons and other factors that might create some issues if they were implemented in the Gambia. But in terms of service, in terms of court procedure, in terms of everything jurisprudence in the Gambia, we pretty much mirror the UK justice system. So therefore, if the court process in the UK allows service to your legal representative as good service, why is it not good service in the Republic of the Gambia? The Supreme Court said, serving a notice on the chief of protocol of the president is good service, but serving a document on the legal representative of the president is not good service. And only the Supreme Court of the Gambia can explain that. But that's one out of two. The other two submission processes were done correctly. No problems with that. The Supreme Court was served correctly. The president was served correctly the first time around. All right. But then they said the third submission process was not done properly because it was served on the lawyer and not back to the chief of protocol or the president himself. And for that reason, the Supreme Court decided they were not going to hear a huge case with massive ramifications. Election petition, a challenge to a presidential election. You're going to derail a judicial process because one tiny bit, one tiny technicality is allowed the Gambia to retain an absolutely diabolical president, a total failure, incompetent. The guy doesn't even look like he wants to develop himself. He wants to improve on the job. He can't do it. He has got no ability whatsoever. This guy is looking worse by the day. He went on a meet the people's tour or meet the farmer's tour just last week and the week before. And a few days ago, he was still touring the urban areas of the Gambia. And he cannot muster one line that makes sense. That's the president of the Gambia I'm talking about now. He cannot utter a word, anything that would inspire the lamest of ducks on Gambian soil. But the Supreme Court of the Gambia decided that because one process out of three was not done properly, in my view, it was done properly. Your legal representative is your contact. When your legal representative is served, his client is served. It's the duty of that legal representative to then pass that petition or whatever information they were served to their client. That's how it works in the United Kingdom. For those of you who don't know, I worked at a criminal defense law firm for 12 months. No, 16 months. 12 months part-time, 4 months full-time. All right. I also worked at UK's largest criminal defense law firm for a couple of weeks. I did constitutional law. One of my strongest areas in law is constitutional law and tort, the law of tort and contract. All right. So just to set the stage so you guys know, I'm not talking bollocks. Sorry for the language. I'm not talking nonsense. Because sometimes when you start telling Gambian people the truth, they tend to pick on you personally. They go personal, they attack you, call you names, they caricature. But they know me. Average person in Gambian politics knows me by now. So they'll make noise. They'll deny what I'm saying. Give it a day, 2, 3, 4 days, and you'll see it come out. A lot of stuff that people are making noise about now, I wrote about it or spoke about it 4, 5, 6 years ago. And it's happening now. Oh, they're all clamoring now. But I've spoken about this years ago. So why are you guys suddenly making noise about it? This is common knowledge. I've made everybody aware of what's happening in the Gambia, where Gambia is heading, what struggles we're going to have. We're facing those struggles now. But I'll come to the economy bit. Let me go back to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court frustrated the election petition in 2016, January 2017. Supreme Court frustrated the election petition in December 2021. The same Supreme Court came out with a controversial ruling 3 days ago. The United Democratic Party submitted a court challenge against civil servants who are also participating in political parties as executive members of political parties. So the United Democratic Party challenged those appointments because if you're in the diplomatic mission of the Gambia, you're a civil servant. That's different from a minister. That's different from advisors to the president. So the Supreme Court did make some good judgments in part, but the other parts of the judgment left everybody speechless, including myself. And as I said before, I said this, Gambia's judicial system is on life support. That was back in 2021, 2022. By last year, 2023, I concluded that there was no justice in it. It's plain and simple. We have seen murder cases with witnesses, to the point where allegedly the suspects admitted to crimes they committed. Their cases were frustrated in our legal system. They were manipulated and those court cases were dropped. This is what's going on in the Republic of the Gambia since 2022, 2023. By now, all those clamoring, all that hoo-ha, all that uproar is nothing but noise as far as I'm concerned, because I've spoken about this before. The current government of Adama Barrow and Coalition 2016 are not interested in following the rule of law. They're not interested at all. It's only now that they're blaming Adama Barrow, but this is a precedent that was set by Coalition 2016, because the Constitution of the Gambia made it absolutely clear, categorically clear, that the Jana Commission, which is the Commission of Inquiry, shouldn't have been instituted against ex-heads of states and serving heads of state. The same Constitution in other provisions made it absolutely clear that the Truth, Reparation and Reconciliation Commission should not have been instigated against President Jammeh or ex-presidents or serving presidents. But they ignored all of that. Coalition 2016 ignored all of that. And from my experience of doing law and going on to do legal practice course, which I'll explain to you in a minute, you will know in a minute, that having done the legal practice course, the practice directions or civil procedure rules are very important in the Supreme Court case. If Gambia is indeed mirroring the judicial system applied in the United Kingdom, if Gambia is indeed mimicking the judicial system, the judiciary, jurisprudence of the United Kingdom, there's no way a public interest case of this nature, as huge as it is, starting from the Supreme Court petition, election petition of 2021, then onto the prosecution and sentencing of Yankuba Toure, finding him guilty, and then to where we are today, where the Supreme Court of the Gambia said what none of us could understand, but I don't know the full remit. I don't know what the argument was. I don't know what the UDP submitted and didn't submit in terms of challenging civil servants who are executives of political parties. So if you're a civil servant, not public officials are different. They can do politics. They can take appointments for political parties. Civil servants, so the diplomatic mission is a civil service. It's not public office. Ministers are public officials. They can have political appointments. Presidential advisors are political appointments, so they're not civil servants. Civil servants cannot serve the civil service and also hold political positions. That shouldn't happen. All right. So that's what the UDP challenged, but they added public officials to it. All right. They added presidential advisors and other people who aren't civil servants. So the Supreme Court was right to say that public officials who are political appointees can hold political party positions, no problems with that. But civil servants like ambassadors, first secretaries, deputy ambassadors, they cannot hold servants. They're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to dedicate their working time to the government of the Gambia. They're civil servants. They're paid by the government of the Gambia. So the Supreme Court is right. But when the Supreme Court turned up and said, the Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction, the APRC for short, APRC is the political party I support. It is one of the big parties in the Gambia. The Supreme Court, in its judgment, said that there's no evidence to prove that the APRC is a registered political party in the Gambia. It also mentioned other smaller parties, about 2 or 3 of them, and stated that there's no evidence that these political parties are registered political parties in the Gambia. Now, that sent most of us tumbling. We didn't believe what we were reading. But again, sometimes the Supreme Court will only decide on what's before them. I mentioned election petition submission rules. 2 fulfilled, 1 unfulfilled. In my view, 1 was fulfilled in December 2021. So all 3 submission procedures were fulfilled by the United Democratic Party, who challenged the election petition. And my APRC also challenged the election petition. And another party called Sobe challenged it. The GDC challenged it because we saw open vote buying in the Republic. Videos being shared by the NPP government themselves, giving people money, giving people pots, plates, giving people lots of enticements so that these people can vote for them, can defect from their other political parties and go and join the NPP. That was public. That wasn't hidden. The public interest in an election petition, presidential election petition, is massive. But twice in a row, the Gambia Supreme Court has let us down. And it's hard to understand why we have to keep going through this. I mean, this is what I said. I said the Gambia's judiciary is a make it as you go rules. They make the rules when they want to, not following precedents. Because if the Supreme Court of the Gambia followed precedents, in the High Court of the Gambia, there was a case between the police, Gambia Police Force, and a lady called Aisha Fati. That case, the police of the Gambia Police Force, and the Attorney General's chambers didn't fulfill one of the three submission procedures. One of the three was missing. Gambia Police Force or the AG chambers, the AG versus Aisha Fati. The case was at the High Court of the Gambia. What did the High Court judges say? And the High Court judges and the Appeals Court judges and the Supreme Court judges sometimes are the same. The Supreme Court judges tend to be separate sometimes. But the High Court judges, Appeals Court, High Court, Supreme Court especially, they interchange sometimes. The High Court judge in the case between the Gambia Police Force or AG versus Aisha Fati said that even though the police weren't fulfilling one of the three submission criteria, the police missed out, they didn't submit the right way. On the third count, the Gambia High Court said, because that case is of public interest. Imagine, Aisha Fati is one individual. In the grand scheme of things, she's a small individual. The Gambia High Court said that because her case is of public interest, even though the police did not meet the submission criteria, and they missed out on 1 out of 3, that the trial should proceed because it's in the interest of the public. One tiny little lady. I'm not diminishing the lady's stature. I'm just giving you context in terms of one lady and a country. So I'm not saying Aisha Fati is a tiny lady. She's not. I'm just telling you an individual versus a country, she's tiny. But they said that individual's case is of public interest. But when the state's own apparatus was challenged, election petition, presidential election, the biggest case you'll ever find on a nation or in a nation, the same judicial system of the Gambia ignored precedents and said, oh, we're going to throw out the election petition because 1 out of 3 submission procedures wasn't followed. In my view, if you serve it on the lawyer of the client, it's deemed good service. But the Supreme Court of the Gambia said no. So why then is submission of an election petition or procedure on the chief of protocol deemed good service? And the chief of protocol is not the legal representative of the president. It's just an administrative representative, not the legal. The president has nominated a legal representative and instructed them to handle matters relating to that particular case. And those matters related to that particular case, that's what the UDP, United Democratic Party, followed and issued one of the submission procedures to the lawyer, thinking that the lawyer, being instructed by the client, would be good service. Just one tiny little abnormality or administrative task, one little administrative task. It's not even a matter of evidence or fact, just an administrative task, one tiny little one. The Supreme Court said, we're not going to hear this trial. They threw the election petition now. But the same legal system, and Gambia is a small country, they know each other. The same judiciary said, oh, one lady's case is of public interest. Therefore, even though the police failed to fulfill that criteria, the case must go to trial. And the case went to trial. The case is still being tried. We have our nation gripped by its throat by gangsters, by mafias. What we have in the Gambia, calling it a banana republic, is an understatement. What's happening to the Gambia now is no longer justice. It's not a judiciary. It's not dispensation of justice. What we have in the Gambia is the haves and have-nots, the connected and the unconnected. If you're connected, you can murder somebody in broad daylight. It goes to court, they'll frustrate the case, and the case will get dropped. It happened many times earlier this year, last year, the year before, where murder cases mysteriously collapsed. They didn't go here and there, they failed. That's what the justice system of the Gambia is doing now. You can actually buy murder cases. The justices are the biggest drug dealers in the country now. Drugs going missing in our law courts. Cases are being manipulated. Huge public interest cases are being frustrated and thrown out because of technicality. The Supreme Court of the Gambia said, oh, there's no evidence that APRC is a registered party. There's no evidence that Ghana is a registered party. They couldn't find any evidence that those parties are registered. Maybe based on technicality. I'll tell you what, when you're doing submissions, disclosure, they call it legally. When you're doing disclosure, sometimes you agree the disclosure bundle with the other party. So in this case, it's the NPP coalition versus the UDP. UDP took the NPP coalition to court. It is UDP's responsibility to submit every single document relevant to their case. And that could be a document that UDP intends to rely on, a document that affects UDP's case positively or negatively, a document that affects the NPP coalition positively or negatively, or even a document that will undermine the UDP's case. If it's relevant to the case, you are compelled to disclose that case. When the pre-trial or the case direction or case management meeting takes place between parties, when submissions are made, most of the time they'll agree on what needs to be submitted and what shouldn't be submitted. And if any information is missing, one party would ask the other to submit such information. But if for any reason, both parties or all the parties, everyone involved, oversighted or missed or didn't think a document was substantial or required in the trial, the court also has powers. I don't know about Gambia. I never practiced in the Republic of the Gambia. But in the United Kingdom, all right, Civil Procedure Rule 31 or Practice Direction 5, Civil Procedure Rule 31. Rule 31 or Part 31 and some of its subsections tells you that the court can sometimes, depending on the case in front of it, ask the parties to produce a document which is material, significant, or will make a fairer, make a trial or a case to be litigated fairer than it would have been without that document being produced. The Supreme Court, if UDP didn't submit the list of registered political parties at the Independent Electoral Commission of the Gambia, which handles all political party affairs and election affairs in the Gambia, if the Supreme Court knew that UDP didn't submit a list of registered political parties in the Gambia and the executive names of all those political parties, and then highlighted some of those executive members who are now civil servants but serving political parties at the same time, the Supreme Court could have said that, all right, this matter is about civil servants politicking at the same time. Therefore, on this disclosure bundle from the Democratic Party, the plaintiff, and the respondent or the defendant, the National People's Party government, there's an important document that's missing. Was this agreed to ignore the important document? Or was it an oversight? Or was there a disagreement? Or did UDP apply to the Independent Electoral Commission for copies of these documents and the IEC refused to supply them? So I don't know the full case. I haven't read the full judgment and looked at the material yet. It's just that the Supreme Court said that there's no evidence to suggest that the APRC, AD, GANU, and other political parties are registered political parties in the Gambia. We've all believed that the APRC is a registered political party. They went on a fake congress back in 2022 in Janjambure, and they shouldn't have gone to that congress. But APRC was a registered party as of 2021 presidential election. As far as we know, because I haven't seen, I've seen IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, update the APRC's list of executives in February 2021. But by the time the presidential election 2021 took place, I don't know whether APRC was still a registered party or whether after the 2021 presidential election, the APRC disbanded itself, deregistered itself from the Independent Electoral Commission. When I see the full case material, I will come back again and have a live program. Right now, I'm just touching on the surface in terms of precedents. The Supreme Court knows that this is a humongous case. It's ginormous. It's absolutely huge. In terms of jurisprudence, by Gambia's context or any nation's context, this is a mammoth of a case. And I am staggered. I still can't understand why simple documentation could have proven the registration status of each of these parties. It could have proven each of these parties' executive members list. It could have proven the appointments of each of these civil servants who are still practicing politics in WhatsApp fora, on Facebook, on online TV channels, and by other means. We know that some of these ambassadors, secretaries, deputy ambassadors, protocol officers are engaged in politics. That's why the UDP sought to challenge it, because the government of Adama Barrow decided to reward these people after the 2021 election. And the reward is to appoint them to the diplomatic mission. Little did these people know that the diplomatic mission is going to take away their political credentials. And the government of Adam Barrow, in some ways, did that deliberately, especially to the APRC executive. Every other APRC executive member that was making noise, was boisterous, was on social media, was on online TV channels, was in places politicking hard for the survival of the APRC or for the survival of Adama Barrow in 2021. The NPP knows that leaving those people with their political acumen would sometime become detrimental if they were still in the government appointed to executive positions or political appointments. So what the NPP did was to appoint all the big APRC wigs that were making noise in politics, that presented APRC as a legitimate challenger of the NPP government. What the NPP did was they appointed all of those APRC bigwigs in positions where politics was totally sucked out of them. They can't engage in politics. They appointed the chief defector, Fabakary Tombonjata, as the Speaker of the National Assembly. His political career was dead the day he was appointed the Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of the Gambia. Dead completely. Then they appointed two fellows to South Africa, one as an ambassador, the other one as a protocol officer. Their political careers dead. They appointed another opportunist who was not part of the APRC, by the way, until 2021 elections came, suddenly was interested. They appointed this opportunist to the Gambian embassy in Moscow, Russia. So therefore, all these appointments, they appointed another one to community development, then they appointed another one to NYSS, whatever you call it. All APRC appointments, high profile ones, obviously they didn't get the 5 ministerial positions that they told us in 2021 that the APRC was going to get. That was false, deception, lies. They said, oh, APRC is going into alliance with the NPP. We'll get 5 cabinet ministers. We'll get lots of permanent secretaries. We'll get lots of ambassadors. It turned out we couldn't even get a decent ambassador. We only had one. And we have one protocol officer sitting next to the only ambassador. They have a speaker of the National Assembly, and the others are all doing rank and file jobs. They sold one of the biggest political parties in the Gambia so that they can become speakers of National Assembly, ambassador, protocol officer, and community development officers. Nothing wrong with that. If you get you appointed to those positions, you're serving the public to your best ability, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you do not mortgage a political party of APRC's size. We were a massive political party, the most successful in Gambia's history, period. The Supreme Court said there was no evidence that APRC was a registered political party or is a registered political party. And one of the ambassadors they appointed to South Africa, there's no evidence that this ambassador was appointed by the APRC or appointed by the Gambia government as an ambassador to South Africa. As I said before, when the full judgment is made public, I will break it down to pieces. I said this before, that Gambia has no justice system. What we have is a mafia state. The mafia have got our nation by the throat, and Gambia is struggling to breathe. The biggest criminals in our system today, in our public administration, is within the Attorney General's chambers and the judiciary. All right? That's where you have the biggest hustlers in suits, and they wear wigs as well on top of that. Well, it's evident now. Judges caught on corruption, judges breaking the general order, judges stealing drugs, judges doing stuff everywhere, left, right, and center. Cases being undermined. I said this before, the trial of Yankuba Ture, if that took place in the United Kingdom, the trial would have collapsed in the first week. Only in the Gambia, where people use their power and influence instead of listening to what criminal law, criminal procedure rules, what they said about a murder case. What you have to prove first before the trial even goes to the next stage. Yankuba Toure's trial would have collapsed from the beginning. Janneh Commission shouldn't have violated the Constitution of the Gambia. TRRC shouldn't have violated the Constitution of the Gambia. So in a way, although the Supreme Court of the Gambia is under fire right now, it's not the first time they've done that. They've done that in December 2016, January 2017, December 2020, 2021. They're still at it. When they were asked about Yankuba Toure's immunity at the Supreme Court, what did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court said that official duties of a government appointee, a minister for that matter, Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council, do not include the out of hours. Something to that vein. I'm paraphrasing. It didn't say exactly that. So I'm paraphrasing. Yet we all know that when somebody gets appointed president or a minister, you don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore. And we all know the only witness they relied on admitted to lying several times. And they had no other material to tie Yankuba Ture to the case. Maybe he did it. Maybe he didn't do it. But as far as criminal justice is concerned, based on my experience of 1 year, 6 months, 16 months of criminal defense, and I worked at UK's largest criminal defense law firm, Tucker Solicitors, for a short period. Then I went to MTC for a longer period. Based on my experience and my academic knowledge of law, there's no way Yankuba Toure's trial would have gone beyond a week or two in the United Kingdom. It would have collapsed. There's nothing to tie the man to. Out of 9 witnesses they called, none of them saw anything except the one that said he actually deliberately lied about that case. 2 other co-conspirators weren't even charged. Edward Singate is free, Peter Singate is free, and other people who were alleged to have been there when the alleged murder took place. But we have a justice system where emotion, sentiment, family connections, the wealth of your family, the wealth of your family, your connections with the government. Even if you killed somebody, they can undermine your case. I mean, look at the killing of 3 paramilitary officers. They went and picked up a poor guy who said he never held a gun before, not on that day, when they accused him of killing 3 paramilitary officers and gravely wounding a 4th. Material that they submitted to implicate that Usainu Bojang, none of that material so far has tied him to that murder. But I spoke about this case about the paramilitary before. The fact that they accused Usainu Bojang of committing the crime and driving off, and then all the checkpoints from Senegambia Sukuta were open all the way to the border. When they've just heard gunshots, somebody just shot your colleagues, your police officers, 3 of them, and killed them and injured 1. The first thing the police would do is close all exit and entry points to the Republic. Not close them completely and stop people going in and out. Close them in the meaning that you have to vet every single person, especially when they said they fled on a bike or a vehicle. Vet every single person going in and out. They didn't do that. All the borders were open until this guy went to Jululu, randomly met President Adama Barrow's government's lady in Jululu, randomly. And then suddenly, from nowhere, the lady knew that Usainu Bojang was in Jululu. Oh, and he'll be in a compound house XYZ in Jululu. Let me go and meet him. And suddenly, the lady had a $1 million reward for finding the alleged killer, Usainu Bojang. They're trying the poor fella. Nothing that they put before the courts is implicating this fella till this day, but they're still detaining the poor fella, accusing him of killing 3 paramilitary officers. Did he say he never held a gun in his life? The shoe that they brought for the fella to try, which was supposed to be one of the feet of the alleged murderer, the shoe couldn't fit Usainu Bojang. It couldn't fit. As far as the public information is concerned, they haven't found anything that tied this gentleman to the murder of 3 police officers and the attempted murder of a 4th. Our court system, judicial system, is a mess. We all saw last year how a murder case, famous murder case, was undermined. We all saw it before us all, where a child died in a vehicle. We all saw it. We saw another one where a wealthy Gambian guy's son stabbed his friend, killed him, went to the police, they undermined that case. He's free now. We all saw another young fella in a vehicle, ran over 3-4 people and killed them, went to court, was freed until that public outrage. Then they took him, they said they were going to try him again. Did they try him again? What's the case? Where are the police officers that killed people in Faraba? Where are the paramilitary officers who've been abusing the APRC supporters? But you're calling Gambia a democratic state, that the government of Adam Barrow is better than the government of President Jammeh, just because Adam Barrow's government has not affected you yet. If your child died in the acute kidney infection case, you wouldn't be talking about Adam Barrow being a good president. If your child or brother or sister was shot in Faraba, you wouldn't be saying Adam Barrow is a good president, or in Kanilai, where they shot Haruna Jatta, killed him and injured many others. The Gambia Supreme Court said there's no evidence to suggest that APRC is a registered political party. Maybe it's true. I don't know what UDP submitted. We'll wait to see what the facts of the case are. All right. But I doubt that the lawyers of the United Democratic Party wouldn't have submitted documentation to prove the appointments of Gambia's ambassadors, protocol officers, secretaries, deputy ambassadors, and defense attaches. I'll be staggered if the United Democratic Party didn't submit documentation from the IEC to demonstrate currently registered political parties in the Gambia as of the appointment dates of those ambassadors, protocol officers, secretaries, defense attaches, or attaches. I'll be staggered if the IEC refused to disclose this information to the United Democratic Party, that the court didn't order the IEC to produce these documents, and courts can do that, including the Supreme Court. If the United Democratic Party said, we have formally written to the Independent Electoral Commission to submit a list of registered political parties in the Gambia, but the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission or the administrative secretary of the Independent Electoral Commission refused to disclose these documents to us, so therefore we are appealing to the court to order that the Independent Electoral Commission supplies these documents, because these documents are crucial. They're fundamental. They're the pillars to the success or failure of this particular case. So the fact that the Supreme Court said there's no evidence, it means, by guessing, that the United Democratic Party didn't submit the registration certificates of these political parties. I'll be shocked if that was the case. Even at case management hearing, that was the first thing you would do. Okay, APRC is a political party, yeah. Do you have their registration details? Do you have their registration certificate? Do you have the APRC executives' appointment letters, the list of executive members? Do you have the Gambia government's appointment letters to these ambassadors, secretaries, and other people? Not the political appointees. Those are the first things that would be required on the first day, case management or case direction hearing, they call it. Or sometimes they call it pre-trial or pre-hearing. Or sometimes they call it case management. That's the first thing when you go to court. You go through each other's bundles. What have you got? What you're submitting? What you're not submitting? You agree on a submission bundle or documents that each party must submit if they don't have it on the day. I'd be shocked, because even if the UDP didn't submit it, the NPP would think, okay, we'll submit this from the IEC to prove that we're not registered parties. And at that point, the NPP might have said to UDP, hey, look, we have got list from IEC, APRC is not a registered party, GANO is not a registered party, AND is not a registered party, and other parties that you've named in your petition as registered parties are not officially registered parties. And the UDP will decide, okay, well, if that's the case, then we don't have any reason to proceed, because the case has no merit. Because if you said the APRC executive members are the same people that the NPP government appointed to our embassies across the world, and then you were shown evidence and you confirmed it with the Independent Electoral Commission that these parties have deregistered, they are no longer registered parties, then the UDP will have absolutely no appetite to pick up a fight against the NPP government. If they did, the courts would have condemned them for wasting the court's time. I am absolutely shocked. I'll be absolutely mortified if the United Democratic Party turns out to be the incompetent plaintiff here. You're claiming something, but you're not providing the evidence to support your claim. You're accusing somebody, but the most basic of information, like registration certificates of political parties, appointment letters to embassies, or appointment letters to the National Assembly, it's always good practice when you have a Speaker of the National Assembly that they resign from their political positions before they become Speakers of National Assembly. The same applies to ambassadors, first secretaries, protocol officers. You have to relinquish your political party position before you take up such appointments. So on the first day, case management hearing, I'm good, brother Omar Kanute, my own uncle. Yeah. So, but anyway, this is the state we found ourselves. I'd love to see the full judgment plus any material that was submitted in this case. But as far as I'm concerned, if documentation was the only issue, if the only issue in this huge public interest case was registration certificates of political parties from the IEC or appointment letters of people to the civil service, the Supreme Court should have asked for them. They should have ordered that these documents be produced. Yeah? Why didn't the Supreme Court of the Gambia do that? They didn't do that in December 2021, which is the largest. Yes, brother Kex, everybody follow Kex News. Share the full judgment with me, please, Kex. Everybody follow Kex News on TikTok and Facebook and other places. The brother is doing a fantastic job in terms of bringing information to the public. Yes, you're right, Mamandin Kuyate. Omar Kuyate, thank you very much. Fangom baringol lam walti. Kuyate kuna kujabi samate nyol Kuyate. Anyway, aning sisi aning ture nyol be mumbari malete. Anyway, but yes, I would like to know. I'd like to know whether this is plain incompetence from the United Democratic Party or this is what we've come to expect of our Supreme Court. But I know for a fact, 100%. Yeah? I don't know about the Gambia, but Practice Direction 5, Civil Procedure Rule 31 and the sub-points of Civil Procedure Rule 31 of the United Kingdom, and Gambia follows the United Kingdom system of justice. In the United Kingdom, if a document is so central to a case that its non-disclosure will take away such public interest, the courts have got powers to order that those documents be disclosed or be supplied. It can be done. At the end of the day, the onus is on the accuser, the plaintiff. But at the same time, for the sake of national justice, to build our case law in the Gambia, to enrich our jurisprudence, the court can say, you brought this matter, even before it goes to trial. This is why you have case management where the court clerks will advise both sides, the lawyers, the counsel, whatever, of different parties will advise each other that you need to get this, you need to get this. We haven't got this. Why haven't you given us certificates from IEC? Before the trial even began, these materials should have been on the benches. To think that it's gone to full trial and then the 5 justices sat and litigated, or the plaintiff and the respondent litigated this matter without these crucial documents. These are the bedrocks, the foundation of the entire challenge. To think that the trial started without them baffles me. That's a total waste of the court's time if that was the case. But we'll see. I'll come back again here with the full judgment, like what I did with the immunity clauses in the Constitution of the Gambia. We all knew that the Jana Commission should have been instituted, that the TRRC shouldn't have been instituted until the Constitution was amended. They ignored it. Now, unfortunately for Adam Barrow, because he ignored those constitutional provisions, when he departs State House, when he's no longer at State House, and there's movement in State House right now, Adam Barrow is not comfortable. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. I was going to discuss it now, but it's getting late. It's after 11 now, and I've got to wake up really early tomorrow to sort some things out. Yes, you're absolutely right, brother. The merit of the case is more important than the administrative aspect of it. This is actually what the UK courts do. The administrative aspect should never derail the merit of the case, the size of a case, like an election, presidential election petition. Administrative aspects should never derail a presidential election petition or a case of this nature, where all other political parties are going to learn from it. The court could have intervened and said, this is, in fact, the first day of case management or case direction, the clerk should have said, go and get registration documents from IEC, appointment letters to the embassies, and whether these officials are civil servants or political appointees before the trial goes ahead. The courts need to ensure that there's actually a case to be tried. There's a compelling reason why, if this went to trial, the plaintiff will succeed or not succeed. At least there'll be merit to the case. The trial is likely to succeed. Before you go to trial, you have to demonstrate, the plaintiff has to demonstrate, and the courts have to demonstrate that there is compelling evidence that indicates that the case is likely to succeed if it goes to trial, if it goes to court. Why did you allow it to go to court when the fundamentals, somebody doesn't have legs, and you tell them to go and run, not Paralympics, Olympics proper? Why would you allow that? You think so? Not with current technology. Nobody, there is no fair competition, or the case has no compelling evidence to succeed at trial. Why did the Supreme Court allow to go to trial to start with? If somebody said, oh, that person is the APIs and they're appointed to deploy materials, and the court clerks looked at them and thought, hang on, this party is not a registered party, so therefore the executive members are not political party appointees. It doesn't exist. So this cannot go to trial. It's a waste of the Supreme Court's time. Why did the Supreme Court say that from the beginning? Then UDP can withdraw and resubmit at a later date, and they got all the documentation in place. No. They did that with the election petitions twice, 2016, 2021. They did that with Yankuba Toure's immunity case. Look at Trump. United States is an example. Trump's immunity bailed him out. They said when he was president, although it says you can't go home with your official documents, but as a president, what is your official time? As a minister, what's your official time? You don't have an official 9 to 5 when you become a president or a minister of a state, because at 2 a.m. in the morning, they call you and say there's an emergency XY place. You get up and go. You could be traveling from country to country in different time zones, so you don't have a 9 to 5 in executive position. A president doesn't have 9 to 5. You could be up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So to say that Trump cannot take his documents home was just bullshit. They all do it, but they accuse one person that they don't like. This is what we're having in the Gambia. It's a case of who's connected and who's not connected. Dr. Banja, who was convicted of corruption, he didn't lose $148 million, but Dr. Samate is still serving as a health minister. But we have seen Gambia Petroleum, we have seen now, we have seen GI, we've seen Gambia Post Authority, with that fake hacking that took place at Central Bank. Does anyone know where the case ended? Nobody knows where that central hacking ended, with probably thousands of dollars is gone missing. I don't even know whether they recovered the huge sums of money that they call it accidentally, deposited in people's accounts. The Minister of Health came and said 148 million went missing in my department. He's still serving. Oh, my department killed 73 children. 23, which is a lot more than that. He's still serving. This is what we have in the Gambia. It's not justice. There's nothing going to happen. As long as you're not threatening Adam Barrow's position now. Said he didn't care what his ministers were doing, as long as his position was not challenged. When he challenged his position, then suddenly he acts. But when the state's machinery, apparatus, and other state material are being embezzled, siphoned, call it what you will, the president doesn't care. So when I get the full judgment from Kex News, I will come back again on TikTok and YouTube, and I'll go in detail as to Supreme Court said, why they arrived at those decisions. So now I'm not going to call the Supreme Court names until I say it, but the judgment is very troubling. And unfortunately, it has become a trademark of our court system. All of them. All the courts from the lower courts, sheriff's department, county court, sheriff's department, Gambia police force, and a few people, unscrupulous people who claim land, they'll come to your house and our forefathers own your house. They go to the sheriff's division. They go and forge documents at the high court. They'll work with a few police officers and they'll come and take your house, your compound, claiming that their forefathers own. They're doing Jabang right now. They want to take about 100 to 80 stuff in there. Somebody just turned up from nowhere, or it's my forefathers' area, land. So therefore, you almost violent. People never existed before. They just turned up nowhere. Nobody's forefathers. If you were not having any interest in land, or running a business or a farm on that land for a good 12 years, you don't own the land. They just turn up. But because they got connections in our sheriff department, Bruceby police station, Gambia High Court, or they can get people who can forge documents and stamp them with Gambia High Court stamp to make it look like it's legitimate, but it's not legitimate. They are going about wreaking havoc on people's lives, evicting people. People are losing their houses to dishonest people. We don't have a justice system. But in yesteryear, we had somebody who was taking action against these people. And they'll accuse him of, oh, he didn't like them because he's a Jola. He didn't like them because they're phony. He didn't like them because he wanted their girlfriend. He didn't like them from UDP. He didn't like them because they're Doi. That's why they picked them up and punished them rightly for the unscrupulous and criminal behavior that's littered our streets these days. Now, nobody's there to punish wrongdoing. People are claiming wrongdoing in public. Nothing happened. Because the corruption at Gambia tourism, 90 million been paid for a project that could have been done for 38 million. That's 30 million has been offered. After good, you saw what the now executive changing the electricity tariff so that he can get kickbacks. It's endless. We owe Senegal $20 million. Why can the government pay Senegal in dollars? Electricity. We no longer have our own electricity substations. If Guinea-Bissau is in trouble, we're in trouble. If Senegal is in trouble, we're in trouble. Which nation gives away its energy needs, its security needs, its economic needs, its territory, sea, land, and other places to another nation but calls itself sovereign? Not a sovereign state. We're on. And our justice system, if we have hope in it, well, not all of them are bad. I have to say that. Even in politics, not everybody is bad. You get people who are very honest, straightforward, Gambia loving, have empathy. The suffering Gambian people are doing. Our medical services are falling. I saw a Bundung primary school, children sitting again, Bundung primary school. When I was little, they used to say Bundung Kirinting because the school was made out of some elephant grass and other things, or touch from pound. That's what the class was like. Until the APRC government came and built a decent school for Bundung. Forested. Now, Bundung primary in downtown Gambia, brothers and sisters, children are sitting on the floor again. If you don't take your own stool and your own table, you'll be sitting on the floor in downtown Gambia. Yes, Barrow and NPP will lose. From the Supreme Court case 2021, we've lost the state completely. It's the banana republic, brother. What's going on in the Gambia now is a case of how much people make out of every situation rather than what impact the matter has on the Gambian population. Yesteryear, we had a government that thought about the impact certain moves had on the populations of the Republic of the Gambia. Now it's about individuals trying to amass as much wealth as possible before the fall of Adama Barrow. And the movement at State House, I'll tell you this, maybe when I'm going through the full Supreme Court judgment, I'll tell you what's moving at State House, all right? Yes, that's movement. Things are no longer at ease. Quoting that title of a novel, things are not at ease. things are no longer peace. State are not the same. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. I'll elaborate. I'll touch that topic a little bit. But yes, I said this before. The direction we're going, we are heading to the next Sri Lanka or Haiti or Zimbabwe or any country that you know in recent history, like Greece. But Greece is in the EU. Thankfully, the EU bailed them out. We're not. ECOWAS is dead. ECOWAS doesn't exist. ECOWAS is not going to be able to bail anybody. In fact, ECOWAS came, the little money that they gave to our Barrow government, they came to inspect the government and where that money has implemented projects that the money was for. According to insiders, the report from ECOWAS is damning. It's so bad that ECOWAS had to make a second trip to the Gambia because the government of Barrow, his officials, embezzled everything, didn't implement the money. The same with the $300 million of the OIC. Embezzled. Everything. Gone. 111 billion, you can't see that on the ground. The finance minister came and said Gambia is heading to a very difficult place financially. We have a budget for $52 billion a year, yet our revenue, total revenue, is not more than 15 billion a year. The other billion going to come from? Who's going to give you the other 40 billion? Begging, loans, borrowing. Why do you have a budget of 52 billion when your annual revenue is not more than 15 billion? They're taking loans. The president we're going to have in that state house after Admiral Barrow will have the biggest job on their hands ever. Admiral Barrow's officials quickly forgot that not long ago they instituted an illegal commission, President General. All right, they quickly forgot. They now become the petty bourgeoisie, the billionaires of the Gambia, buying estates and houses in Senegal and diverse places, thinking they're concealing their wealth from the Gambian public. Every has its day. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I bring this YouTube and TikTok live to a close. I will return. When I return, I'll delve deeper and I'll do the exact same procedure rules, practice directions that support my claim. The Supreme Court of the Republic of the Gambia could have done a lot better in recent times than they've done. They could have done much more in terms of our case law, our judicial system, standing up for the little guy, the public, than standing up for the government. We can talk about it. I've given you clues. I've given you evidence of very dangerous rulings that have been made by the Supreme Court. They're going against the grain, the precedent set by its lower court, the High Court and the Appeal Court. The Supreme Court seems to be in conflict with its lower courts. So therefore, brothers and sisters, very good evening. I appreciate the time you guys dedicated to come and listen to the material I have to share with you. My purpose in activism is about the Gambia first. I don't care what political party I support. When I see the truth, I'll speak the truth. Nothing but the absolute truth. All right? So when you see the truth, even though you don't support APS, you don't like me, just appreciate it. Because if we don't do that, the next government that comes is also going to do exactly what the Barrow government is doing. If you're not wealthy, if your father or mother are not the Attorney General's chambers or the judiciary, anything can happen to you and you'll have nobody to defend you. Because right now, our justice system is defending Goliath. It's not defending David. David is the little guy, the public. Our justice system is defending the government that's perpetrating all sorts of crimes against its employers, the public. And that is very disturbing because the law is there to protect the little guy, to stop abuse, not to support the big institutions like government that are clearly taking advantage of the population's ignorance or inability to hold them accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, bring this YouTube and TikTok live to a close. I will return when I've had the chance to peruse through the judgment, in this case, between the United Democratic Party and the NPP government. All right. Thank you very much. Have a very good evening and enjoy your weekends. Lamentamba. Bye.